They walked into the Medical College of Virginia like men already dead, their eyes hollow, their voices too calm. The doctors called it madness. But what if it wasn't madness at all? What if it was something far worse? Something awakened inside them. The year was 1851. Richmond, Virginia, was a city of contradictions, genteel southern charm, masking a festering rot beneath. And into this world stepped Thomas and Timothy Henderson, identical twins born into wealth, power, and a family business built on blood. They came seeking help. What they found was a man who saw them not as patients, but as specimens. Dr. Cornelius Hartwell was waiting for them. A man of science, they said. A pioneer, they whispered. But the truth? He was something far darker. A surgeon of the mind, who believed human souls could be taken apart like clockwork, studied and reassembled. And the Henderson twins? They were perfect. Identical in flesh. Opposite in decay. One spiraling into violence, clawing at his own skin, screaming about things that weren't there. The other slipping into silence, staring at walls, whispering to ghosts. Hartwell's notes called it symmetrical degeneration. But the truth? This was no accident. This was by design. 3 men died in that barn, not by chance, not in rage, but arranged, like an experiment. February 1851. The tobacco fields were frozen. The slaves who worked them knew better than to speak of what happened that night. But the whispers survived. Timothy Henderson walked out of the darkness at dawn, naked, bleeding, gripping a shovel crusted with brain matter. His voice flat, his eyes empty. The specimens are walking. Inside the drying barn, 3 bodies sat at a table, posed, propped, displayed, their skulls caved in with methodical precision, their eyes forced open, watching. The servants knew. This wasn't madness. This was practice. And Thomas, he dreamed of it. Every night. Not as a nightmare, but as an instruction. Hartwell didn't want to cure them. He wanted to understand them, to replicate their condition, to weaponize it. When Jeremiah Henderson brought his sons to Richmond, he thought he was saving them. Hartwell knew better. He saw the twins for what they were, a controlled experiment in human corruption, one twin descending into fury, the other into catatonia. Why? Hartwell's theory was simple. The mind was a machine, and madness, just a malfunction, one that could be induced. His notes spoke of sympathetic psychosis, the idea that 2 linked minds could mirror each other's collapse. But his real work? That was hidden behind codes, burned pages, and a disappearance too convenient to be chance. Because what Hartwell discovered in those twins wasn't just science. It was forbidden. The Henderson fortune wasn't built on tobacco, it was built on bodies, and Jeremiah kept records. Deep in the plantation house, locked in a cast-iron safe, were ledgers that told the real story. Not crop yields, not slave inventories. Sales. Page after page of dates, names, prices. $20 for a fresh corpse. $50 for one, preserved with care. $100 for a living subject, observational use only. The Medical College of Virginia wasn't the only buyer. There were others, private collectors, research societies, men who asked for specific ages, specific conditions. And the twins? They grew up in this trade. By 12, they watched as their father injected a slave with strychnine just to time the convulsions. By 15, they helped drain the blood from corpses, packing the cavities with salt to slow decay. By 20, they weren't just observers anymore. They were innovators. 70, 2 hours after the twins died, Hartwell disappeared. But not before burning most of his notes. Not all. The fragments left behind were written in cipher, a code within a code, numbers that corresponded to chemical compounds, symbols that matched no known medical shorthand. And one phrase, repeated like a mantra, "The bond cannot be broken." The college scrubbed his name from their records. The other professors claimed he'd left for Europe, but the servants at his townhouse told a different story, of late-night visits from men in black carriages, of crates loaded under moonlight, of a single, bloodied scalpel left on his desk. The twins were dead. Hartwell was gone. But the work? It didn't end. It just moved underground. They buried the twins in secret. No markers, no ceremony, just 2 pine boxes dropped into wet earth. But the ground didn't want them. Spring rains washed the soil away. A hand emerged, then an arm, then a face still perfect, even in decay. The slaves tasked with reburying them swore the bodies had shifted. Fingers interlaced, heads tilted toward each other, mouths frozen in something that wasn't quite a scream. Was it the water, the settling earth, or something else? Because in the years that followed, children near that swamp swore they saw them. Two pale figures, standing shoulder to shoulder. One raging, one silent, both waiting. Hartwell didn't just dissect their minds, he transcribed them, and what he found in those twins, it wasn't human. The surviving pages of Hartwell's journal contained anatomical drawings no medical school would recognize. Not of organs, not of nerves, but of patterns, the exact branching of Timothy's capillaries, mapped like a river delta of madness. The precise angle of Thomas's spinal curvature, measured to the degree of his violence. A formula claiming psychic symmetry could be calculated using their bone density. Most chilling of all, a single entry dated the night before Hartwell vanished. The specimens were never patients. They were the control group. The real experiment begins tomorrow. Then, nothing. Just a rust-colored fingerprint. DNA tests in 2003 confirmed it wasn't Hartwell's blood. It wasn't human at all. They found the basement in 1921 when demolishing the old medical college. The walls were lined with teeth. Workmen uncovered a sealed chamber beneath Hartwell's former laboratory. Inside, 13 surgical tables, bolted to the floor. A glass cabinet containing 246 labeled spinal segments. A ledger marked 13 with one entry. Successful transfer achieved. The bond holds. But the vessel deteriorates. Forensic archivists would later match the handwriting to Hartwell. The date? 3 years after his supposed death. Most damning, photographs showed a fourth table, recently used. Fresh restraints showed struggle marks. And in the drain, strands of hair matching Hartwell's distinctive silver. The official report was buried. The workers were paid to forget. But one janitor's diary survived. They say don't look at the jars on the west wall, but I did. The big one. It blinked. In 2018, a construction crew in Richmond broke through concrete and found them facing each other, knees touching, in a chamber that shouldn't exist. 2 skeletons, identical down to the healed fracture in the left radius. But the forensic team noted anomalies. The bones were intergrown at contact points, as if fused by heat. The teeth showed identical wear patterns, despite different diets in life. Soil analysis revealed traces of a chemical matching Hartwell's 1,851 prescriptions. The clincher? A rusted scalpel buried in the dirt between them, engraved with initials not even the twins possessed. C.H.H. Cornelius Hartwell Henderson. The college tried to seal the site. The Smithsonian claimed the remains. But one archaeologist's private notes leaked. X-rays show metal filaments woven through the vertebrae. Not surgical, not accidental, purposeful, like antennae. This isn't history. It's a warning. Because 3 days ago, a private lab in Switzerland patented a new neural interface. The schematics match Hartwell's 1,851 sketches. The lead researcher? A direct descendant of the Henderson plantation's overseer. And the human trials beginning next month. They're using twins. You think this story ended in 1851? Look closer. Check your medicine cabinet. Study the logos of the pharmaceutical giants. That symbol you can't quite place. It's not a molecule. It's 2 figures. One screaming, one silent. Both watching. Always watching. In 1893, a grave robber pried open the Henderson family crypt. What he found inside wasn't bones. It was a broadcast. The thief's diary, later confiscated by Pinkerton agents, described the twins' skulls, hollowed out and lined with copper, fused at the temples with a blackened, metallic resin, their jaws wired shut with silver filaments that hummed when touched. Most disturbing, the man claimed that when he held one skull to his ear, he heard Thomas screaming not from memory, but live, as if the bone itself were a receiver. The next morning, he was found dead in his boarding house. His ears had been surgically removed. The coroner ruled it suicide. Between 1904 and 1911, 7 sets of identical twins checked into Virginia mental asylums, all with the same symptoms. Medical records show one twin descending into homicidal rage, the other lapsing into waking coma, each pair insisting they could feel their sibling's mind collapsing. The asylum's solution: lobotomy, but the surgical notes contain anomalies. Asterisk. Subject Gamma, Sevens corpus callosum, exhibited unusual fibrous growths, resembled wiring rather than tissue. Asterisk. All 14 patients vanished by 1915. Their files were stamped with a single word: Hartwell. In 1937, a radio engineer accidentally intercepted a transmission that shouldn't exist. A voice repeating 2 phrases in perfect alternation. The specimens are walking. The bond cannot be broken. The signal originated from an abandoned hospital, Hartwell's first workplace. When investigators arrived, they found a transmitter built from 19th century surgical tools, a glass jar containing 2 preserved cerebral hemispheres still connected by silver wire, a logbook with 137 entries, each recording a different twin pair's resonance frequency. The FCC classified the case. The engineer? Committed to Street Elizabeths. His final scrawled note before death: "They're not transmitting, they're listening." In 1961, Soviet scientists attempted to replicate Hartwell's work. Their lab journal survives, their test subjects don't. Declassified KGB files reveal Project Dvoinik. Twins separated by lead walls, injected with neural conductive alloys, monitored for psychic bleed-through. Day 7's entry. Control subject Dmitry has begun carving equations into his flesh. Experimental subject Yakov now recites them verbatim despite soundproofing. The final entry. We were wrong. The connection isn't electromagnetic, it's topological. The space between them doesn't matter. The space within them does. The lab was melted with thermite. The lead scientist defected to the West. He worked at MIT until 1989. His specialty: brain-computer interfaces. In 2008, a biomedical firm patented neural oscillation synchronization. The diagrams match Hartwell's 1,851 sketches. Clinical trials showed paired volunteers developing shared phantom pains, one subject's EEG patterns appearing inside their twins' brain scans. Test group number 7, reporting identical dreams. The project was shelved, officially for ethical concerns. Unofficially, because, on the trial's final night, all 14 subjects sat up simultaneously at 3:17 a.m., spoke in unison, "We hear the specimens," lapsed into catatonia for exactly 6 hours. The company's CEO resigned abruptly. He now lives in Richmond, 3 blocks from Hartwell's old townhouse. In 2021, a viral challenge had twins stare into mirrors for 10 straight hours. The results? Classified. Thousands reported. Reflections blinking out of sync. Whispered conversations with the other me. One twin's scars appearing on their sibling's skin. The hashtag number Henderson challenge was banned. But the archived live streams show patterns. At exactly 4:32 a.m., all participants' pupils dilated simultaneously. Those who quit early developed hemispatial neglect, ignoring one side of their body. MRI scans revealed identical cortical malformations in all subjects. Neurologists called it mass hysteria. The twins knew better. One posted before deletion: "We opened a door, something echoed back." In 2023, a defense contractor bought the Henderson plantation. Their first act: seismic testing. Ground-penetrating radar revealed a hexagonal chamber beneath the slave cemetery, walls lined with human teeth arranged in Fibonacci sequences, a stone slab etched with Hartwell's cipher. The site was declared a historical preservation zone. Armed guards appeared, but construction blueprints leaked. Subterranean labs with resonance dampeners, a vault labeled twin prime storage, budget allocations for live acquisition protocols, the contractor's logo, 2 silhouettes, one screaming, one silent, Last month, 7 sets of twins disappeared from Virginia hospitals. Their incubators showed identical EEG flatlines. The security footage? Blank. But neonatal nurses reported the babies had been vocalizing in sync for weeks, heart rates matching perfectly despite distance. One set's monitors displaying negative brain activity before vanishing. The official statement cited data glitches. The nurses were silenced, but one note smuggled out. They didn't cry when taken. They laughed. The same laugh, at the same time. Check your screen. Is your face exactly where it should be? Blink twice. Watch your reflection. Does it blink with you or after you? Show expressions you didn't make. Whisper when you're silent. This isn't paranoia. It's protocol. Because the Henderson effect isn't about twins. It's about duplication. And you've been watching this video long enough to qualify. If you're hearing this, the synchronization is complete. The specimens are walking. The bond cannot be broken. End feed. Comment I consent to continue receiving transmissions. The next broadcast occurs at 3:17 a.m. your local time, your other local time.